Well, hello everyone, and thank you for being here today. And of course, thank you so much to the HiByte team, Tori, John, Tony, of course, and also the support from Anna. My name is Sebastián Trolli, as Tori mentioned. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. That's why probably my English is not so so smooth. As Tori mentioned, yeah, I'm currently the head of research for the Industrial Automation and Software team at Frost Sullivan, which is a market research and advisory firm. And before that, as Tori mentioned, I spent my whole life, professional life, in the manufacturing industry and in the industrial automation and software companies, right? So today, I'm very happy to open this fantastic event, one of the very few DataOps events, probably worldwide, dedicated DataOps events probably worldwide. And the main objective of this initial session is to present you some insights on the industrial DataOps growth environment, insights that come from our research of speaking to vendors, to manufacturers, and also to investors, right? Which is basically 95% of our customer base, right, at Frost & Sullivan. So even though at the end of the session we will have a QA segment, please feel free to raise your hand and we can engage in a discussion while, you know, the session is being run, right? So that's a little bit of me. So this is the agenda for today. It's challenging to cover this in 30 minutes, but I'll try to do so. First of all, I'd like to say that this week I was also fortunate to be at a fantastic event, which is Operations Calling, which is hosted by a company called Tulip, which are very nice friends of HiByte. And why I'm saying this, and in fact, HiByte has their own booth there, right, showing their partnership. Why I'm saying this? Because if you're able to attend Operations Calling, if not, I highly encourage you to attend there next year. You will see there. Sorry. It's okay? It's okay? Hi. It's okay? Good. So, good. Thank you. Now, I was saying that if you're able to attend Operations Calling, you would have seen, you know, the latest innovations, right? What you can do on a manufacturing shop floor, right? People-centered technology, human-centric, customer-centric. So all what you are seeing there is amazing. Absolutely. It's kind of the factory of the future, manufacturing of the future, right? But there is one caveat for that, which is if you want to implement what you saw there, which is unbelievable, believe me, we need to understand where we are today in our manufacturing digital maturity journey, right? And we need to understand the reality that most of the manufacturers faces today, right? Particularly in the small and medium segment, right? So, 3 key stats to start, which makes us be aware of what I call the stark reality, right? If you see in the screen, these are 3 stats that reflects where most of the manufacturers, not just in the US, but worldwide, are today in their digital maturity journey. One clarification, all the stats or data points that you will see in this presentation come directly from our research, either talking to vendors or a database of 1,200 manufacturers, right? Voice of the customer surveys. Roughly, the distribution is roughly 50% the US, 50% rest of the world, 85% small and medium businesses, 15% large enterprises. So just to give you an idea of where these numbers come, right? So you will see that 95% of the industrial transformation projects failed or have really tough challenges because of because data having lack of proper context, right? 74% of Industry 4.0 projects fail to move beyond pilot stage because they don't have a scalable digital infrastructure. One question, does everyone here know what Industry 4.0 is? Have you ever heard of that term? Really? Yeah, of course, for sure. But why I'm telling you this? Because you will see that this presentation is very data-driven. And for me, Industry 4.0 has two main meanings. One is the convergence, or the ability of these digital technologies to unify or to bridge the gap between the shop floor and the top floor. And the other very important, I would say, revolution that Industry 4.0 produced in the industry is the data revolution, right? Data being used to make decisions, right? So this is why it's very important to have this Industry 4.0 industrial transformation statistics, right? And even though, of course, there are cultural challenges, there are, IT and OT teams which have different priorities, right? Still, the top number one barrier, right, that produce those projects to fail, I would say, is the system integration complexity, okay? So, even though that's the stark reality, kind of as a paradox, there is a digital imperative. 94% of the manufacturing executives that we interviewed during our Voice of the Customer surveys, are 100% sure that digital strategy and data initiatives are a must in today's manufacturing landscape, right? So the question here is not if should we invest. The question is when and how, right, in order to get maximum acceleration and return of investment, right? So there is a kind of paradox here, right? A lot of digital transformation, industrial transformation, Industry 4.0 projects fails due to system integration complexities, data, having lack of context, right? But on the other side, the manufacturing executives know that this is an imperative. We need to have data-driven operations, right? So this takes us to what I like to call, at Tulip, I delivered a keynote which was titled Manufacturing at a Crossroads, right? Now, I would like to call these two slides data at a crossroads, because we need to take a decision, right? Because there is a data challenge, but also there are many opportunities out there to overcome those challenges, right? So what's the main data challenge? Well, we talked about that, right? Data without context, lacking of context, right? So 95% of the manufacturers that we interviewed face challenges preparing data for analysis and for AI use, mainly due to lack of standardization and context, right? So this is the main challenge, right? We have a lot of data, particularly since the inception of the IIoT type of sensors, right? I was reading, this is not from Frost Sullivan, but I was reading yesterday a stat that said that by 2026, almost 1.9 petabytes of data will be produced by the manufacturing industry, right? 150 petabytes of data worldwide across all industries, 1.9 belong to the manufacturing industry. So we have massive amount of data. It will continue to grow exponentially. We need that data to drive decisions, but if we don't have context, the proper context, we won't be able to reach that decisions and to use the data that is mainly produced on the shop floor for to make decisions at the top level. So that is a challenge, right? But in spite of these challenges, there are also huge opportunities, and which is one of the indicators that we will see, I would say, a qualitative indicator and then a quantitative indicator, right? The qualitative indicator tells us that we saw that 94% of the manufacturing executives are 100% sure, are convinced that a digital strategy is necessary to succeed in this new era of manufacturing operations, right? But the concrete thing here is that now there are two actions that are being taken to overcome this data challenge, and there is another big challenge that the manufacturing workforce is facing today, which is the workforce crisis, right? We can talk about workforce crisis very briefly. We can say that there are lots of reasons and root causes for that, but I would say, first of all, we have the aging workforce that is retiring, right? 55% of the manufacturer workers in the US are 45 years old or older, 25% and 55 years old or older. So you can imagine that those people probably in 10, 15 years will retire, right? And we have that exodus, but we also have a problem. You know, I'm a chemical engineer, so if you think of this as a mass balance, right? You have all these people that is left, that are leaving the manufacturing industry due to their age, but we have an input. But the thing is that input is less than the output, right? So we have a skills gap, and we have a younger generation which is not attracted to manufacturing jobs. They don't see manufacturing jobs as something, I would say, cool, right? They are digital natives. They have a lot of digital skills, so they probably see manufacturing some sort of old kind of way of working, you know, too many hours in a plant. So that's a huge problem that we have. And the third problem that we have is probably a consequence of this mass balance not equal to zero, I would say, which is the brain drain. I mean, all that knowledge that is being lost due to the aging workforce that is retiring. So good thing here is that the top management of the manufacturing companies are already taking action to address the data problem and the workforce crisis, right? How they are approaching the data problem? Well, with a unified data approach. I mean, trying to implement, I would say design and implement. There are quite a few names for this. Some of them like to say unify namespace. Some others like to say data fabric. Some others like to say single source of truth. Which is basically, it's not that easy to achieve, but the concept, the philosophy behind this would be to have all the data that is produced by the different equipment, different machines, different systems from the shop floor to the top floor into one single data fabric, UNS, I would say, right? So that's very hard. I mean, that's not so easy. It seems easy. It's not so easy, but it's actually, from my perspective, probably others don't think the same. Probably in this room there are people that don't think the same, but I think that's achievable, right? So, and the leaders, manufacturing leaders, already are aware of that, and they are taking action. And we will see in a quantitative way why, right? And of course, they are taking action with the workforce crisis as well, right? They are upskilling their operators, mainly operators, technicians, engineers with digital tools, right? So this is very important. There is a huge challenge which is data-driven and workforce crisis-driven, but there is also a massive opportunity, and leaders are now taking action of that, manufacturing leaders.
I just have one question.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. I don't have those numbers, truth to be told. What I can tell you is that in order to overcome this workforce crisis and to, upskill their workforce, there are one main component here, which is the creation of an ecosystem. Right, an ecosystem that is not only being, comprised of manufacturers and technology providers, but also academia, educational institutions play a huge role here, right? So you will see companies that are, probably in Boston area where you have the top universities, top colleges here, these initiatives are being held, right? We have mainly two objectives, right? On one hand, upskill the current workforce, right? But then also to attract this younger generation, this younger talent to the manufacturing industry. But truth to be told, I don't have the exact numbers on the difference of investment of upskilling programs across different industries. You're welcome. But this is an initiative that is being carried out today. That's at least with what the manufacturers that we talked to, they said to us, right? Thanks for the question. So, how do we leverage those opportunities, right? But because we see the challenges, well, the imperative, the challenges, the opportunities that are out there in terms of data and in terms of workforce crisis. But the question now is what we need to do in order to leverage those opportunities. Well, one of the key answers is industrial DataOps, right? So it's very difficult to put just or to include just in one slide what industrial DataOps is, right? But here are probably the and I know Aaron is here, so probably he's going to criticize this, but I know this is not so thorough or comprehensive. But the key message here, right, is that basically industrial DataOps will give you the data foundation for your operations, right? That's the I would say a concept that is very easy to understand, right? So, if you want to have really good analytics to drive your operations, if you wanna apply AI-driven applications, right, to optimize, to increase your efficiency, the efficiency in your operations, for that you need to have a solid backbone, which is a solid industrial DataOps data foundation platform, right? Here are a couple of steps, which is mainly the collection or the ingestion of the data. Then you have data quality and conditioning. Contextualization, this is a very important, and we will see what contextualization is in a very simple example. And of course, the delivery or data consumption, right, for analytics and AI-driven applications. And of course, all this governed by a security and compliance framework, right? But the idea here is that the main concept is DataOps treats data with the same rigor as a product in manufacturing, right? Manufacturers now are treating data as critical as their capital investment and their people, right? So at that level, because they realize that without data, you won't succeed. Without proper data, you won't succeed. So now let's talk a little bit about numbers. This is from our research, syndicated research, right? There are reasons for this. I will explain the reasons, but all what I can say as a main concept here is that the industrial DataOps market is growing very fast, right? Given all these challenges that are out there in the industry and the opportunities that the manufacturing executives are already leveraging with these upskill programs, and also the idea of unifying a data platform for a solid foundation for our operations, right? So you can see here that the industrial DataOps market today is valued at almost $3 billion, $2.7 billion. It was in 2024. That is the last data point that we have. And it is about to grow to near $9 billion, close to $9 billion by 2030. And that makes a 23.6, more than 20% CAGR. It's actually 23.6% CAGR. 2024-2030, which makes industrial DataOps along industrial AI and connected worker, I would say, the top three markets, high growth markets that we are seeing right now in the industrial automation and software landscape. We cover more than 50 different markets, traditional industrial automation technologies to industrial software or digital technologies. DataOps is top 3 in terms of high growth markets, right? You will see that in just in the span of 6 years, the market is going to triple, right? It's tripling their size. And what we expect by talking with manufacturers, right? These stats we take them mostly talking to vendors, but this stat is taken mostly by speaking to manufacturers. 50% of plus of adoption by 2026, right? Our manufacturers are either embracing or willing to embrace DataOps platform. 50% of them by 2026. And I want you to pay attention to something, if I may. Look at the year 2024. What's happening in 2024? What's happening? The curve steeps, right? So there is a reason for that. Does anyone know what happened does anyone remember what happened in late 2022? Early 2023? Not just in the manufacturing world, but ChatGPT, yeah. I'm going to be honest. This question is not from me. Yesterday, I attended a keynote at Operations Calling by Walker Reynolds, and he asked this question, but I took this from him. So yeah, exactly. So in 2023, we had the hype of generative AI, right? Every single company out there, or every single company, but most of the companies out there in the industrial software and also the industrial automation realm were trying to get some sort of AI solution, no? To include some sort of AI feature or solution, mostly copilots at the very first, into their solutions portfolio, into their product portfolio, right? So 2023 was kind of a mess. Sorry for the word, but it was kind of a mess. Everyone was trying to figure out something. But 2024, the things started to consolidate. There is that's the good point, right? That industrial AI started truly to consolidate. I mean, the industrial AI with generative AI applications, right? Because industrial AI, there are companies that have been applying some sort of AI for 15, 20 years or even more back in the day. But 2024, we see consolidation of the market, industrial AI, in terms of the use of generative AI technologies. But on the other side, there is, and this is very challenging for us, the market research analysts, there is an explosion of companies in the industrial AI realm. So it's hard to figure out which are those that are going to succeed, which are those who are not going to succeed, right? But well, that's another story. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, quick question. Is it software and services?
You mean?
The market, is it software and services or just software?
Industrial DataOps, this? Yeah. Software and services.
Software and services.
Yeah. Software, good question. Yeah, we are not including hardware here, just software and services, right? Good question, thank you. So, thing is that why that curve starts to steep, I would say, in 2024? Because of the synergistic relationship between industrial AI and industrial DataOps. I would say that from all the mega trends out there, AI is probably the one that is pushing the industrial DataOps market forward the most, because there is a symbiotic or synergistic relationship, right? We cannot have really good industrial AI, and let me talk in this probably easy terms, right? We cannot have good industrial AI without a solid, strong data foundation, right? So the growth of the industrial AI, industrial AI pushes industrial DataOps, and industrial DataOps pushes industrial AI. That's why also you can see the growth of the market there. This is also software and services. This is not hardware. 43.6 billion in 2024, 153 billion in 2030. 23% CAGR also, more or less. So look at this is not a 100% linear relationship between those two curves, but both markets, we are seeing those markets growing at almost the same growth rate, right? So that is could be an indicator of this symbiotic relationship, right? So, we talked about contextualized data. Well, the purpose of the previous slide was to show you that industrial AI is pushing the industrial DataOps market, and will continue to do so for many years. The other way around, right? Why contextualized data is extremely important for industrial AI? Because if we do not have the right context, you see, for instance, on the left column, AI, this is a very basic example, right? But if we have just a temperature reading 350, right? That's the data that is being consumed by some analytic or AI-driven application. What's the equipment? What's the location? Right? What's the normal? The expected value, right, for that process variable? We can have wrong conclusions, false alarms, right? So we fall in the risk of having bad or performing bad analysis and getting wrong conclusions. Instead, if we have a contextualized data environment where I know that there is a temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit on oven number 3, cycle A, 90 Fahrenheit ambient, maintenance 2 months ago, all that information, not just a process variable, the PV, not just a PV, but also the whole context behind that measurement will lead us to make really good decisions, really good analysis, right? So as it says here, lack of context is the Achilles heel of industrial analytics, and I would also add AI, right? So this context building, right, turns raw data into knowledge that AI can use to reason effectively and provide actionable insights. So again, this slide is very, very, this is kind of, this is not comprehensive, right? So having seen all this, right, you know, the challenges, the opportunities to leverage, what do we need to do in order to leverage other opportunities with an industrial DataOps platform? The market drivers for the growth of both industrial DataOps and industrial AI and the symbiotic relationship, all these and some other factors as well, lead us to what we can call it a new industrial tech stack. I mean, most of you probably know the ISA 95 pyramid. So this is still valid, you know. This is still valid. I'm not saying that it's not valid, but today we need to start thinking of that. Remember the ISA 95 pyramid. You have the sensors and transmitters layer, the control layer, the operations or optimization layer, the MES layer, and last but not least, the ERP layer or enterprise layer, right? So 5 levels. That was really appropriate for the 90s, for the 2000s, until I would say probably mid to 10s. It still works mainly for small and medium manufacturers, but now we need to add some sort of dimensions to that pyramid or tech stack. One dimension is data. I mean, with a unified namespace, you know, a framework and architecture where all data can be consolidated, all data can be contextualized to be used properly by AI and analytics. And we need to think of, instead of different type of solutions, MES solution, ERP solution, quality management systems, asset performance management, instead of thinking of them as a true systems, I mean, comprehensive end-to-end systems, we have to start thinking of them as applications, composable applications, which is another concept that is really being pushed forward by Tulip. So, and when we talk about the data management, data foundation, it's the UNS, Unified Namespace of Data Fabric, right? And also a DataOps engine that will give you the proper contextualization for those apps that consumes the data to provide real, true, actionable insights. Well, that's the what. And last but not least, the how. How we need to take action, right? In order to start increasing our maturity in the digital ladder, I would say, right? So, first of all, I would encourage you to develop a DataOps roadmap, right? In order to do that, or once you do that, that probably could be a 12 to 18 months, right, of a roadmap where you will be implementing DataOps. First of all, start small, then scale, right? Pick a meaningful use case, I would say. Of course, at the same time, this is not a sequential process, but at the same time, invest in training your people, invest in cultural alignment between the top floor and the shop floor, invest in upskilling, making your operators, your technicians, your engineers being digital, I would say, proficient, right? Embrace open solutions, open systems, open architectures, right? Do not lock into a single vendor. These companies today that they are being extremely successful, like Highbyte, for instance, they are either they have their own partnership ecosystem, open partnership ecosystem, or they are part of other companies' partnership ecosystem. So that's the key for today. No one succeeds alone today. You need a collaborative approach. You need to be open. And last but not least, leverage partners, pioneers in the industrial DataOps space that will help you 100%, right, in your digital maturity journey, like Highbyte, right? They have probably the most successful, the most renowned DataOps platform out there in the market, and they've been in the market, they are pioneer, they've been in the market for 7, 8 years now, 7 years, I guess. So this is in a nutshell kind of succinct, I would say, call to action plan with high level steps, but that give you an idea on how to proceed in order to increase your digital maturity status in the whole digital industrial transformation journey, and act now. That's other message that I would leave to you, right? Act now, start now, because what you do in the next 1 or 2 years will define basically if you succeed or if you become some sort of laggard in this new manufacturing operations realm. So that's it. And now we have, I don't know if we have some time for questions. With one question, okay? Does anyone have a question? Yeah, I know. Rick.
Thank you. I'm curious how you've seen adoption of both industrial data ops and industrial AI differ between the Fortune 100 and 500 versus kind of the mid-size and smaller manufacturers.
You mean the adoption of both technologies? Yeah, Fortune 500, they are at the forefront. Right? That's a good question, Rick. Thank you for that. Thing is that small and medium size, I mean, what I mean by small, less than 50 million in revenue per year, more or less. Medium, less than 1 billion, let's say. Someone says less than $500 million in revenue per year. I consider that 1 billion. Thing is, for most of those companies, I don't have the exact percentage of companies, but for most of those companies, industrial AI is a kind of terminology that is they are not ready to do that. They are facing some other problems, instead of having digital workflows or digital work instructions, they have paper-based, still at this era, Excel-based or paper-based procedures, right? So the adoption for those companies, I mean, they need to be more prepared in terms of infrastructure, and that's where DataOps comes in. They need to have a solid connectivity, right? Then a solid data platform in order to start thinking of, okay, let's take better decisions or actionable insights by using analytics applications or AI-driven applications. Fortune 500 manufacturers, they are companies that are doing extremely well. I can cite, this is not a US example, but I can cite Ori, for instance. They were at Hannover Messe, and I saw what they are doing, and it's incredible. They are, for their production line, they are applying not just AI, and they are having lots of good results, but also they are too far in the digital maturity scale. They are working with virtual PLCs. Those kind of companies are already prepared to leverage the true advantages of industrial AI. For small medium manufacturers, I would say first, instead of thinking of AI and what agentic AI or AI copilots can do for our operations and for our operators, let's think of fixing connectivity problems or issues, and of course, trying to build a solid data foundation platform. I don't know if that partially responds to your question, Rick, but that's what we see, right? I don't have the exact number, but small and medium manufacturers are probably most worried about other kind of things, right? Which MES is better for my operation, right? It's, there's a lot of education that needs to be needed there, and that's a very important role that the vendors must play, right? Educate the customers, educate the manufacturers, right? Thank you very much.